from this breath. Given a legacy of faith, sought the wisdom of my age, raised in an unholy temple, cast out without my sage. But I am not dead, not beaten. From the tomb of saints I rise, raise the sinner's hand and heart. I take my oath, oh take my oath. From this breath, no gods will hold me again. To fools or kings, I'll not bend. I will stand where my fellows are, swear before these very stars. I put faith into my past. From this breath, from this breath to my last. No savior can buy me, no prophet knows my fate. Truth they cannot pray for, nor excommunicate. With my fellows I will live, the lines in my face map my purpose of my oath. This is my oath. From this breath, no gods will hold me again. To fools or kings, I'll not bend. I will stand where my fellows are, swear before these very stars. I put faith into my past. From this breath, from this breath to my last. No throne above, just flesh and dust and love. So raise your tired eyes, we're all we have and it's enough. No map, no master plan, just this trembling human man, singing louder, hand in hand. From this breath, no gods will hold me again. To fools or kings, I'll not bend. I will stand where my fellows are, swear before these very stars. I put faith into my past. From this breath to my from this breath.
Gotta unmute this microphone. Hey, how's it going? Okay, so this is going to be a little bit podunk. Some of you are in the future, but we'll and shortly in the future. Usually, we get people straggling in a little bit later. Sorry, I'm not more put together, but I'm on semi vacation. I'm working my ass off down in Virginia, over in Virginia. I'm actually going to add in myself. This is going to be, I'm used to talking to myself, but this is going to be a little bit weird. Yeah, we're going to do this right now. We're doing it right now. I'm adding myself in. Just trust me on this. It's going to be interesting. Okay. I'm going to add myself in here. Okay. So right now you're hearing me through my phone. I don't know why. Okay, here we go. Okay. Hi. Weird. So part of what I'm doing, can't listen to that while I just. Part of what I'm doing is to out here in Virginia is to help my partner to update the property, which is a commune that we kind of started together. And I wanted to show you guys around for those of you who are curious while we get things going. And I'm getting started. I'm listening because right now they're playing music next door. I want to show you. Let's go. I'm going to take me off and leave me on. You guys still see me, all right? You guys still hear me? This is a trailer when my partner got to be kind of like their escape from the house. They still have children who live with them. And the water doesn't work and the power doesn't work right now. And there's no air conditioning or heating. So we're working on that. But yeah, this is the property. I wanted to, before we got started, let you guys see it. And especially right now because it's Sunday and the church next door is having their services. This is that's the chapel that's right next door to ours, to the property here. And they're interesting. We haven't had any problem with them. I'm not sure that the pastor lives in that house behind there. But we assume at least the owners of the church are the family that lives next door, as I understand it. You can see the number of cars. Right now they have about 3 cars in their parking lot. I might sneak over there. No, probably not. Look, they've been cool with us, so we're not being a-holes to them. But I wanted to, while I'm here, just gonna show you guys around how the cool things I do when I'm in Virginia. That's my partner's son lives in that shed. We got like a shed, private dormitory type property thing going on, including that I'll probably be building one here soon, so that when I'm out here with whichever of my kids decide to join us, right now it's looking like it'd probably be Elijah, they can be here. This is the barn where we do cool get away from the house type of activities with our cool flags. No kings in America. Over there, so that one says Chinga la Migra, 1776. We the people resist. Hate has no home here. These are all my partner's flags. I didn't do any of them. I helped post them. But as you can imagine, it gives us a little bit of a thrill to post all of those out there where people see it on their way into service in the morning. So I decided to start today less sermony, because what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Korihor app. I'm going to show you guys more or less how far we are since I got started on it about 4 days ago. I've been dreaming this up with Claude for a while, to have an app where we can have fun, hang out, and also where I can manage all the business side of the Church of Korihor, including things like taxes, tax receipts, donations, distribution of monies, and the donations for giving to help people. Let me just preface this by saying, by the way, if you're making comments, I don't know that I can see them. Oh, here we go. Okay. Oh, that's studio chat. Oh, cool. Oh, yes, it is a new hymn. We have 2 new hymns that we'll be premiering today. I'll be playing the other one here at the end. That one's called Jezebel. That one's really making a stir. on Facebook and on TikTok, actually. So I want to talk a little bit about that. So TikTok, when it was brand new, right? I didn't care about it. I had no reason to care about it. I thought it was just, like what people like watching teenagers in miniskirts dance and do dances and stuff. That's what I thought TikTok was. Then I started dating a person who was younger than me. Not like some Epstein Island shit. Who had a TikTok account. Oh, you guys see me? Hopefully you guys can still see me. Comment if you can still see me. I'll just leave my comments up while I talk. So I got a TikTok account. I started posting, and I took off after a while, and I started posting. I started getting into debates and posting and becoming kind of a political debater, and came to find I wasted way too much damn time on that stupid app. TikTok took over my damn life, man. And I could see very clearly how these social media apps, they're engineered to make us depressed. They're engineered to make us feel bad about ourselves. They're engineered to make us waste our time, and then to pump our ear holes and eye holes full of advertising for corporations. And something about it just feels sick and wrong. It's just like, while you're using it, I'm going to see an ad here in a second. And it's just a way that the corporations have found to get into our lives, even when we're taking time off. And one of the other things that I noticed about TikTok that made me see pretty clearly why people liked it was that you had a lot of, especially single moms, you had a lot of people who were working independently because they didn't have any other way to earn a living in many cases. You had these people, I'm realizing that there are congregants over there, that there were people who were making their living on TikTok. And they were mostly selling things that they made, selling art that they created. And, occasionally you'd get somebody who was selling products that they white labeled or something. But you weren't getting as much corporate media crap. Well, hopefully that door slamming on that cord didn't disrupt everything for us. The door slammed shut with the wind. But the thing about it was that it was like a way for ordinary people, to start a business or to, have a little side hustle. And if you could dance or you could sing or you could, whatever, that's fine. But if you could just be an influencer, it was a much more approachable way to become an influencer than you would get on Instagram or on Facebook or on YouTube, where you have to invest a lot of time, money, and effort into getting big enough to where you can actually make money and be able to live off of it. TikTok was a lot simpler. It made things a lot easier. And I thought, this is mainly because you don't have to compete for advertising with corporations. That people were flipping through, looking for lives or looking for videos. And mostly, TikTok at the beginning was just a platform for small-time creators. Then they started to switch their revenue model over to corporate advertising. And it was terrible. I mean, I still prefer TikTok over YouTube, unfortunately, even though I try to use YouTube more because I do believe in the strength of YouTube. But TikTok, it used to be so good. And I think Instagram really was like that in the beginning too, though to be honest with you, I'm still not on Instagram. I mean, I'm on there. We're on there, but I don't really do anything with it. I wish I could get somebody to volunteer to be my social media manager and manage our Instagram so I don't have to get in there. But, we know for a fact that scientifically proven people, especially young people on social media, on these social media apps, are getting depressed. These apps just make us more miserable. And the thing that was exciting about it, that TikTok energy, was originally about, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy the content that I like, create and post content that I like. And if I'm going to buy something, I'm going to buy it from a small time creator, from somebody who needs the money because they're going to put food on the table, because they're going to put dinner on the table. And that was nice. It was a good, enjoyable experience for me. And I thought, this is why having a corporate motive is just ruining these dumb social media apps that we're using all the time. But who has the resources to make a social media app, for an actual community, to just create community? Because I tell you, if the Church of Korihor had its own app, had its own Instagram, we wouldn't be concerned about using it to make money. We'd be concerned about using it to help people. Like, the whole purpose of the app would be to empower ordinary people by giving advertising not based on who can afford to pay for advertising. We wouldn't charge for advertising. We would give it to people on a need basis. It's like, you know what? Do you need some help with your Etsy business, with your Redbubble business, with your whatever? Is this the only way that you, as an autistic person who is an artist, is this your only way to make a living with your art? Because you can't, because of your neurospiciness, it's hard for you to work in a social environment, let's say. And so it's like, well, maybe we can make this into a solution, make social media into a solution rather than a problem. And if you have a corporation that's just trying to make more and more and more money, even just something as democratic, or as what ought to be as democratic a system as Reddit or Wikipedia, which, is kind of like a social network in a way, even, you can call it a nonprofit, but unless the purpose is actually to make people's lives better, at some point they're going to figure out a way to just use it to make money. And I hate it. So you need money to keep it running, to innovate, to come up with new features and stuff. But I'd rather that, I said it would be better if that money were coming from users who would be willing to pay for an app that doesn't have ads for corporations, that all the advertising is going to helping people. And I started vibe coding, completely separate to this, the Epstein-Ballard matrix, as you guys know. And this has been like my 5th little app I've started making on Replit. And I started out, I used it to make a couple of apps that didn't really work for work stuff. And then I built another one that actually kind of worked. Figured out how vibe coding really works. Vibe coding, if you don't know, is where you use AI prompts to write and rewrite the code, just coding in normal language. In other words, creating the vibe of your application. And so that's vibe coding. And as I started working with it, the more and more I worked with it, the more I realized a social media app doesn't have to be expensive to build. That we could really create something and kick the tires on it, make it fail a few times, start over a few different times, or start over in a small scale, like strap out this feature and say, okay, scrap that didn't work. Let's start over and load another one. And if people are patient with it, if we could get people to be patient and say, look, I get that we're still figuring out how this thing works. We don't have a lot of money. We don't have a a team. We just have, volunteers working to create this thing. Are they seriously done with church? I swear they didn't start until noon. The cars were just loading in at 11:30. I think that church is not doing great, guys. Anyway, Korihors are here. I don't know where you Christians are at. It's a Free Will Baptist Church, that one. This is in Coburn, Virginia. Anyway, so I wanted to show you guys what I managed to build in about 3 days and kind of the vision for where it will go. And here in a moment, I'll be able to pull up our comments here. Doing this from my phone is not ideal. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to hop back into the trailer, and I'm going to show you guys where we're going and how this is looking. So I'll see you in 2 seconds. Now I can see comments and things, but I'm in this. It may not look fancy, but screw it. This is our cool little getaway. This was Winter's son's home situation for a while. Let me just remove that video from the thing. And then we got that shed built out there, and it's worked out much better. It's kind of depressing to be in a trailer home, for like full time. It can be really, and it wasn't great for his mental health. And so getting something that wasn't on wheels, something that was firm and in the ground has really helped him. And so we're glad of that. But Winter always wanted to use this as kind of like a sanctuary to get away from things where the kids look at that. We even put the fly paper up. Where they can get to decompress for a while. So, anyways, let me show you the app. Everybody hear me okay? It's been one of the weird things about StreamYard as it's been updating is sometimes my microphone cuts out, sometimes my camera won't start. I don't know what they're doing over there. They're not expert vibe coders as I am, as you are aware. I'm going to share my whole screen. Okay, got it. All right, so this is the whole screen. Don't judge me for what we're doing here. Let me just redistribute our stuff here. Let me just make myself a little bit bigger. I mean, you know what I mean. Hold on, let me try this. Okay. So I'm going to show you the app. Hopefully it's pretty easy to see. All right, so this that you're looking at is called Replit. And basically it's a vibe coding software. Inside this little tray, I don't want that. Thank you. Inside this little tray is the application. So you'll see, let me go ahead and show you what the whole thing looks like from the beginning. Yeah. Sign up. Okay. So when a person arrives at the app, on whether it's on mobile or on desktop using your web browser, it looks like this. This is kind of the general AI generated. I gave it a description of what the Church of Korihor is and what the app will look like. I have the app URL figured out what it's going to be. I haven't deployed it yet though. So it's built like a whole bunch of stuff in here that's just going to all have to change. But in any event, you're going to see one of the cool features that Replit came up with, and not me, is that it has a day and night feature over here, a light or dark feature here, so that if you like something that is dark, I generally do so I can use my phone in the dark, and so it saves on battery power. You can keep it in dark; it'll default, but you can also just switch it to the light one, and it changes everything to fit that. The membership tiers are brought over here. Eventually, I'm going to make kind of like a voucher system that will allow people who are currently members of the Church of Korihor at korihor.org to go ahead and be grandfathered over into into the Korihor app. So that will all be streamlined. You won't have to worry about all that. Who is sending me messages? Is this work or church business? Oh yeah. Yeah, no, this is work stuff. That can wait. Anyway, so eventually people will be able to join the Church of Korihor from this app, and will manage all of your donations through the app. Right now, you can still go to the app to the donations if you want to be able to donate, if you want to help us to pay for all this, because it's not expensive, but it's not free either. I'm estimating it'll probably end up costing about $400 a month in fees just to be able to vibe code. I don't know if you guys can still see me with the door closed like that, but yeah, you still see me a little bit, so that works. I'm just going to let that door stay closed. So yeah, so person signs in. In this case, luckily for me, my browser remembers. And this is what it looks like from the inside. And this is what it'll look like from the desktop point of view. But and I just deployed. I just asked it to make this change where you can click on the tiles and they actually open. Up until like it was as I started the opening hymn today, from this breath, I told it, "Hey, I can't click on the tiles and have them open up so I can look at them. That sucks." And so it's like, "Oh, well, let me do that for you." And it built that while we were getting going here. Oh, plus added the new feature into the tray. I haven't even looked at that yet. But anyways, so this is what it looks like. I'm going to move these badges and certificates over to underneath here. So I mean, everything's going to change. Let me switch back to dark. This is too bright. It's easier. Oops, no, that's not what I meant. Sorry. Oh, did it take my no, here we go. Dark mode. There you go. So sorry guys. This is what it'll look like when you're on your desktop, which for clergy will be an important thing because a lot of our business for luminaries and heralds will be managed from desktop computers. But everything that is available on here will be available on mobile as well. One of the ways that we do this, so the hamburger that opens the menu over here is the sigil, is the Korihor sigil. And this is what it looks like. So here's a quick rundown of the screens before we go and I show you the mobile. This little button here allows somebody who's on desktop to open up mobile mode and be able to see what it looks like on the actual device, on an actual phone. But anyways, so in addition to your home, which is basically where you can see you and any tasks that you have. So like if I have an administrative task that needs to come up, it comes up as one of the cards pinned to the top, or it will. And so it'll come up and be like, "Oh, hey, you have a task to send somebody a tax receipt," and it'll come up and it'll pin, and I'll be able to click on it, and it takes me to that thing. Or in this case, the path to reason. This is what it looks like. It's like, the path to reason. You completed all of the steps to the path to reason, which will become our new conversion system. This is part of training. You can click on a post and see somebody's post that they've, they either text. Right now, we don't have any video capability. Eventually, we'll be able to do videos. I'm hoping, because video is a big part of my life, obviously. But right now, you can do a text post very similar to like a Facebook post. This is James or whoever that is. This is just dummy content, of course. And then, of course, you can click on images and be able to look at people's images that they post and things. And then, of course, I can also myself post things. Um, boom, and so you click on the little plus button. Sorry, you click on this plus button so that you can post, and you can post it either to your profile or to one of the missions that you are involved in. But reason and science. I love reason and science. Here's an image. Um, your whole offspring. There you go. Boom. And then when somebody goes into that mission, or if they're subscribed to that mission, then that post comes up for them. So, which is cool. If you are looking to join and become part of the Church of Korihor and go to one of our missions and looking for a mission, you can do that here at the missions tab. I haven't really gone over this, how the look and feel of it, so it's a little bit. This is all high level, right? But generally, you're going to have community. You're going to have a general fellowship mission. So this is where sermons, Sunday sermons, will be posted. Mutual aid network, still figuring out what that's going to look like, but basically that's our mission to ordain luminaries who are just going to be people who are out here helping small mutual aid groups all over the country to connect to the resources that they need. Then, of course, the reason and science mission, and so on and so forth. This is so podunk still. I can't even click to get into those missions right now. We're gonna have to make that. It's all under development. Then nationwide missions. This is just going to be U.S. based for now. This actually Hellfire Agency should be up there. Anyways, so the podcast Hellfire Agency will be here. Luminary Council will also be here. You'll have to be an ordained member of the clergy, or or have applied to become a member of the clergy in order to get into the Luminary Council. So everything will be very roles based. Is very roles based. And then a VIP mission. We're making a VIP membership standard for those who are able to part with $48 a month. They can do that to support the church more actively. What's going to be in the VIP mission? I freaking don't have any clue, but I've had people comment to I don't feel like $48 a year is enough support for you. And I tell them, as I will tell you, go and donate more. You go to korihor.org. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys have seen this. But korihor.org has a new look and feel now. This again, all this is still very much in development. But yeah, so those of you who don't know, you can always go to go to korihor.org and click on donate to the church. It takes you to /donate, and you can donate through this form, and it should generate tax receipts now. We're figuring this out as we go. In any event, so you see it kind of has this kind of cool blocky map of the United States for regional missions. Now, as I've been promoting our videos, especially about the charity work, especially about the blanket drive and so forth, the comment I get more than anything else is, how can I join the Church of Korihor, or do you have missions out in Ohio, in whatever? And so what I'm going to say we're going to do right now is we're going to start out with, we have Pacific Northwest, West, Southwest, Midwest, Southeast, Northeast. And people will be able to click on these. Doesn't really do anything right now, but you'll be able to click on these. And at first there'll be missions. But then as we go and somebody wants to start a mission, a regional mission, that'll be like a congregation. Our local congregations will be missions. And so somebody, let's say you're in the Midwest and you want to start one, you'll be able to start a mission and be ordained as a luminary, and then go through the process of getting background checked and getting set up so that you can ask people to give donations and things and to help out. and then that will also mean that you'll be published on the website with all of your credentials. Um, for whatever roles that you fill in the church. So you have all these different missions right now. Right now, if I click join, it lets me join. If I click leave, it lets me leave. That will be a much more mission specific, region specific application process. Basically, I want there to be like, I would love for there to be like a singles mission where people who are adult singles and want to, well, everybody, you'll have to be an adult to be able to join the app. That's one thing. So we're not going to be taking, 14, 15 kids into this application process. There's going to be an age verification process. I don't need anybody's kids getting their brains distorted by our social media or anybody else's. I actually asked X yesterday, day before yesterday, I said, how do you verify that 13-year-olds or people under 13 aren't using X? And it says, or how are you protecting children from being harmed on X? And it said, we don't allow people under 13. And I said, wow, the idea of 13 and 14-year-olds using this app scares the shit out of me. I hate that. But okay, how do you verify that they aren't? That they aren't under 13? And it said, well, we ask them for their birth date. And the app, the Grok, if you don't know, is the AI for X and for Elon Musk. And it says we ask them what their birth date is, and if it detects that they're under 13, we don't let them sign up in the app. And I said, oh, that's how you do that? That's real clever, guys. I said, so you're relying on the honesty of the person filling out that application that they are over 13. And it says, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, you guys are rad. Ours is going to be more robust. I'll tell you that right damn now. But they don't care. Again, corporations, if they can get kids with mom or dad's credit card on their application and addicted to it and becoming depressed from getting pelted with body image issues and hate and adults grooming them and things, they'll do it. If they can make money off of it, they want it. They want it just like that. They don't want it any more complicated. So anyway, so that's what the missions tab looks like now. The training module needs a lot of work, but at least it got something. It's already way better than anything we had in Wix. Right now, it's just showing the path to reason. But eventually, Luminary training will be in here, and you'll be able to go through each of the steps, complete exam videos, read a text, ask questions, interact with the community. All of that will be under training. I haven't even started into that. Messaging actually does work so far. I don't have any other users really to message in here, but at least like the opening and closing of messages and storing messages does appear to work. And then your individual profile, you can now upload an image and it changes your image, your profile picture and stuff like this. It has my badges and certificates everywhere. I'm taking that whole thing out, that whole label out. I'm trying to convince it to put these just like stacked underneath a person's profile, so that way, if you're talking to somebody, you'll be able to see right away, oh, I'm talking to somebody who is the leader of the mission in this, who has a role in the app and has a role in the church. Just checking to make sure that everybody's here and you guys can hear me and see me and everything else. Okay, cool. Boy, let me pull up Longitude because this is not great lighting wise. Hi, you see me now? All right. So this is what it looks like. Oh, and then app dev. I love this. I came up with a pretty genius thing here. We'll see if it's any good. But basically here, it lets me change the colors on the app as I go without having to reprogram it. So if I'm like, oh, heralds, like I'm a herald, for example. Let's say that the ring around a herald should be, well, let's say it's like, let's just say it's white. No, let's say it's like a sky blue. right? I need to set it like that, and then when I go to my own profile, boom, it shows my it shows me blowing as the girl blowing a bubble gum. That's for that, by the way, is the poster image for the documentary I've been working on, Mormon sex. And um, I'm also going to be posting. Let's see here. Hold on, let me find my picture. Yeah, this is a good profile picture. All right. Yeah. Oh, God. That's really good. Good. So, anyways, so basically, all of these will only be available to people with certain roles, including especially clergy, but also admins. It also has a fellowship pipeline process. This will be where we create the pipeline for people who are being onboarded as luminaries and so forth, or as volunteers and so forth. It'll also be where we start to handle disciplinary matters, like somebody got into the singles mission and they're acting like an asshole, sending dick pics to people or whatever, and it's like, whoop, let's go ahead and put them into, what do we recommend? A 30-day time, a 48-hour timeout, 30-day timeout, or do we just ban them from the mission? Do we ban them from the app? Do we kick them out of the church? What do we do? So and so forth. Right now, again, this is all dummy content. As a clergy, I'll be able to see the members and be able to manage their fellowship roles, and like, are they fellows? Are they friends? Friends is our free tier, as you guys know. So people will be able to download the app and use it in free mode. So, and that's how we'll start this onboarding process. People will be able to come in, they'll be able to attend, they'll be able to make donations, and you'll be able to do all of that by simply saying that you are over 18, and that you understand that, that you swear that you are over 18 and that you are not going to be a dick, and that you're going to abide by the terms and conditions, and then we'll let you on. But before you can join any missions, you're going to have to go through some kind of age verification and identity verification. I would love for this, the thing that makes this app unique, one of the things that makes this app unique. Hey, Rio, hey, Dan is still here. Yeah, great. I love having you guys here. Thank you so much. I'm just that timed out for a second for me. Did time out for you guys? Are you guys cool? Are we good here? Um, there are no bots, no kids, no assholes. That's going to be like the whole thing with this app. People will want to join it for free at the free tier just for that sake alone. So we're going to have a system in place where we can verify you're not a bot, you're not an asshole, and that we know who you actually are. No fake accounts. Nobody having 3, 4, 5 fake accounts. Look, we'll deal with disciplinary issues on a one by one basis. We'll get volunteers to help, or we will get AI if we have to. We'll augment the process so that it's nobody's job strictly to kick people off the app. But we will make sure that there is a human being deciding, are you part of our app or are you not? And are you behaving in a way that conforms with the standards of the app, with the standards of the Church of Korihor. But here's what's really exciting about this for me. I want to show you one more time. There's this mobile mode, and hopefully, I just told it to deploy this new feature, and I haven't tested it. So we're going to try it out here, and then we're going to see it. First of all, I told it, hey, the post button is it was tucking down underneath the tray, so I told it to raise that up a little bit, and I told it to add a live tab. So basically, this if you didn't see it here, the mobile mode creates this smartphone interface. so that you can test out what it'll look like in a mobile interface. I've actually gone into the actual mobile interface using my Google Pixel, and it actually works even better than it does in here. But this works for now, so that I can at least see where things are, see that when you click on things, it actually pulls it up. So basically, everything you were just looking at in the other interface in the desktop view is also in the phone. You click on the sigil in the corner, and it takes you to all of the same features, including that you can switch on light mode if you don't like the dark thing. Yeah, it's a personal preference. But then so that's the kind of like the hamburger is the sigil itself. I'm gonna turn that off because it hurts my eyes. I might be getting old, you guys. So yeah, but the really cool feature I want to get to is live. So far, I had it create a screen for it, and it says, "We're still working on this. Check back soon for live events and broadcasts." So this will be probably the biggest challenge, is creating a space where we can do sermons on the app. And not only sermons, but where we'll do like uncouplings, for example. Oh my God, I'm not even showing the screen. Guys, I'm going to get better at this. Anyways, let me do all that again. Let me sum up. Okay. This is, okay. This is the mobile mode. You click on mobile and it pulls up like this. That's really not for anyone's benefit but mine, to be honest with you. Anyways, so yeah, everything that you have on the desktop version is also in here, but it's of course structured a little bit differently, so because this is how it will look on a phone. So it's just an easy way for me to update the app without having to actually pull it up on my phone and come up with new features. You'll be able to go into missions and click into your missions and see or join missions. All of that will be here in this interface, and then you'll have live. Now, live is where we'll do godless sermons in the future, where we'll do sacraments and ceremonies. My idea is that at the top of this, you guys actually seeing any of this? Okay, good. The top part of this screen will be the video. Well, really the whole screen. It'll be either the top screen if you're in landscape, or the whole screen if you're in portrait, whatever we decide to do. We still have to figure out like how the media server is going to be set up, how we're going to set up hosting. I've got some ideas on that. I'm certainly open to hearing other people's ideas. We'll figure that out as we go. But my idea is going to be, the kind of vision is, part of the app will be where you're watching live content. Then underneath that, you'll be able to interact in the comments, and there will be a fundraiser bar if that event has a fundraiser attached to it. So let's say, for example, you've got somebody who wants to is going through an uncoupling. They're going through a divorce, and part of their spiritual development is getting the hell out of that house, getting into their own thing. Well, we'll see if I can or not. That's a good question. So let's say that you have uncouplings, right? When people go through divorce, one of the biggest challenges people have is that they, you have to get the fuck out. You got to get into your own place. And it's, as I've said in videos before, part of the problem with that is, when you get married, religions, they don't really have a ceremony for divorce. And that just doesn't make any sense, because these days everybody gets divorced. Even I got divorced. I was married for 20 years. I just barely got divorced. And when you have ceremonies to get married, in going back as old as marriage is, you get wedding gifts, right? It's because people who get married, they need silverware, they need plates, they need cups, they need toasters, they need stuff like this. Divorce is a shameful act And so you're on your own if you're going to do that. And I just thought, there's so many people who get divorced because they have to get out of this situation. And it's a risky thing. You have to you break out of it. You break out of one relationship and you are actually in physical danger. You're going to have to figure out a way to either empty the bank accounts or pawn your wedding ring or something. You have to figure a financial way out. And for a lot of people, they get stuck in a bad relationship and toxic relationship or even abusive because their spouse figures out, well, they don't have the means to start out on their own. And as long as I can keep them from being able to do that, you know to keep them from having the financial means to get out on their own, then it should be good. They'll never leave me. I'd love for there to be a process of saying part of your uncoupling is we're going to hold a ceremony where you can send an invitation to people you want to be there, and we can open up to the Church of Korihor to say, everybody come on in. We're having an uncoupling for a person, and if you're here, you know, let's say there's 1,000 people watching this uncoupling ceremony and say, look, guys, we're doing an uncoupling for, Susan here. She is leaving an abusive relationship with the church. She's leaving an abusive relationship with her husband. And she and her kids are getting the fuck out of there and trying to start a new life. They don't have family that they can fall back on. Her parents are religious or passed on or what have you. And just every little bit helps Susan to be able to get her and her kids into a new situation and to be able to be secure. So we've set a goal of $3,000. $3,000 goal fund, as a charitable donation to the Church of Korihor. But the fundraiser, let's go ahead and get anybody who can, commit $5, and let's see if we can't get enough money committed during this ceremony from people tapping. Yeah, I'll commit $5 to help Susan. And you click on it, it comes up and says, okay, you can give $5 or you can give more if you want. And, and see if we can create a community that's built around the spiritual growth process of not only getting out of a bad relationship, whether that's with the church or in a bad marriage or a bad relationship living situation, but not only getting out of that bad situation, but also helping other people. And you think about that for a moment, okay? Just really visualize that in your head. What if, let me show you the app again. I want you to imagine if this app here had ads that popped up here just like you have in an ordinary social media app. But instead of, hey, 15% or more can save you 15 minutes can save you 15% or more on car insurance with Geico. It says, Susan needs help. We're trying to help this person out of a bad situation. And right now, we don't want that money. We've got your monthly donation or your annual donation. Thank you for that. Now, if you're going to donate money, donate it to the people who need it. Or let's say that one of these was an ad that says, guys, we have a mutual aid group in Sumac, for example, right now. Southern Utah Mutual Aid Coalition is looking for people who can donate beans, dry food products, frozen food products that we can distribute to immigrants in Southern Utah who are currently hunkered down and disappeared off the map, given recent activity of immigration activity in the area. We have a lot of immigrant families that we're trying to care for out here. Can you help out either by donating or by sending materials to this address? And then it will have the name of the person. It'll have the address of the luminary who's working with Sumac in that situation. So, I mean, this is just an example, right? And then the idea will be also that there will be ads like images that people can post, post selfies and things like you do on most social media apps. Pictures from your vacation or service that you're doing in the community and so forth. And so what we'll do is we'll have an application process where somebody can get on the app and say, I'm an artist. We have, Damien here. Damien is an artist who doesn't do well in corporate environments and has never held a job, can't really hold a job. And right now, nobody's really hiring anyway. So let's help Damien out, right? Or here is David. Here is Marcus. They're trying to get on their feet doing something like selling their stickers on Redbubble. And then what we'll do is we'll have, for any instance where it's not a donation, but like a purchase, what we'll wind up doing is just allowing people to include a link and a button to their Redbubble, their LinkedIn, their, whatever. If we have people who are like, I really need a job. I don't really care for anybody to donate to me, but I definitely, I'm out of work, or I need, contracts. I need clients. Then we'll say, look, we're going to help this person out right now, and put an ad up there for them that says, hey, I'm a video editor and I need clients. If you could help me out, I'd really appreciate it. We could get, one day I foresee that we'll be able to start a mission that is just helping people who have student loan debt, and say, let's help this person out with their student loan debt, or let's help this person who just graduated to get into a job. If you can give this person a recommendation to a job with the company that you work for, that'd be a great service to help people out, to help somebody out. So you just imagine all of that right now, because of course this is literally just what we've built in like the last 3 days. Another part of this that I wanted to feature for you guys, that I thought you would think was pretty cool about this live feature, I'd love to know what you guys think, is that I don't know how many. Have you ever played Words with Friends? Do you remember that? Back in the day, that was like the thing, right? It was just a fun way. Or you play Candy Crush on your phone, just to pass the time. I would love it if the live tab had a game network, basically, where you can not only go live, but you can also invite people to play a game. And I think that would be kind of a cool way to kind of blend that free time app, kind of like just doodling around kind of fun, like distracting project, with a video streaming service similar to TikTok or to Instagram or what have you. So it's not just for services of the Church of Korihor, but literally it'd be a way to play games. I'm not thinking like first person shooters and things like that. You guys can go do that on your own time. That's cool. But this would be like a way to play like Clue or Monopoly or Scrabble or games like those. And vibe coding is actually a great way to do that. You can actually, in an afternoon, vibe code an app with basic game engine components for a few bucks. You can create an app that takes the game of Clue and adds some element to it. You actually have to look for clues, right? Just one of the funny things about Clue is you don't have to get it. There are no clues. The clues are just cards people have in their hands. But can you imagine if you created an engine for Clue where it actually puts clues into the map somewhere, into the board somewhere, and you actually have to go and hunt for them. And it's like a thing that you get like a group of people, like 10 people or something, or 100 people or whatever, and they all hop in there and start looking for clues and see what they can come up with, or start talking to each other. Maybe you can go live, maybe have like an audio interface similar to Discord, where it's like, okay, everybody's in. Okay, here's where I am. Oh, I'm over here and I just found this. And you can talk to each other and solve a crime together. I don't know. These are just visions. But what I'm thinking is this. We can create a gaming engine that has basic components, or likely just import one off of like Substack or something that already exists. If we can do something, if we can import something somebody else has already developed and kick the tires on, I definitely want to do that, just so we don't have to build everything from scratch. But I would love to have a library of code, like a basic coding library for games for the Korihor app, where you can download that or copy it and throw it into Claude or throw it into, fuck help us, Chat GPT, or for hell's sake, Grok or something, and say, take this library and create me an app, a game that does this, that conforms to the standards of the Korihor app. And then you'll be able to take that and bring it into the Korihor app, load it in a test environment to see if it works, modify it how you want to, make an app that you think will work, and then submit it to be approved. And then if it looks like it works, a luminary can be in charge of just looking at it, inspecting the code, seeing if there are any major problems, making sure that it's secure, making sure that it looks like it might be interesting and fun. And if it gets approved, then we just move it over into beta. And you move it from there into beta, then it comes up in the library so that people can start a game using your beta app. They have to probably we'll make some kind of screen where they have to say, oh yeah, I understand this game is in beta. I'm kicking the tires to see if I can break it. Let's get a bunch of people in here and play this game. And it can be like a way for people to play games on their phone, or on their browser. And this is just one of the many things that we do with the Korihor app. This whole thing really started with, I tried to use Wix to create the process for people to take the oath of reason. And the oath of reason, if you don't know, you can become a contributor for $48 a year of the Church of Korihor. We need as many people to do it as possible, please. Thank you. But then once you are a contributor, that means you are a financial contributor. You can call yourself a member if you want of korihor.org. But by the bylaws of the Church of Korihor filed with the state of Utah, to become a fellow, which is a member of the Church of Korihor, you have to go through our initiation rite. And the initiation rite, I think we're done with this. I'm just going to go ahead and remove that screen so it's not distracting me. To become a fellow in the Church of Korihor, you have to be a contributor already. And then you take the oath of reason, which is that you place your left hand over your heart in the presence of a herald, raise your right hand over your head, and you recite the words of the oath of reason. From this breath to my last breath, I, so-and-so, et cetera, all the way down to amen. Following that, the herald turns to the congregation and says, if they do receive this person into fellowship, because the last words of the oath are, please receive me into fellowship with the Church of Korihor. Then the herald turns to the congregation and says, we warmly receive so-and-so into the church, into the fellowship of the Church of Korihor, and everybody applauds. And then you are in the Church of Korihor. I try to make all of that in Wix, which is where usually Wix is great. I mean, there's so many things that you can do with Wix that I've never been able to do with any other service out there. And I've tried it all. I've done Squarespace. I've done all these other things. Wix is far and away the best. But even doing something as simple as this, like creating a pipeline for somebody to apply to become a luminary of reason. And it's like, okay, well, step one, you need to submit a background check. And all I wanted to do was create a process to say, okay, somebody joins the Church of Korihor, they have to subscribe. They don't have to become a contributor to become a luminary, but they do have to become a member on the website. You become a member on the website, and then it moves you into this one container, and then it should show you a link on your back end, on your home screen that says, are you interested in becoming a luminary? Are you interested in joining the fellowship? Are you interested in having a sacrament done, like an uncoupling or like a wedding, or, et cetera? And it's like, just creating that much was a pain in the ass. And I mean, technically, you can do it all with the coding inside of Wix, but it was just too hard. And I was like, this. I wish that Wix was as well developed as Replit for doing something like this. So I started dicking around in Replit, and I'm like, let's say I had an app that did this, or that we managed all of the membership records and donations and tax receipts and so forth. Um, for the members of the Church of Korihor, what would that look like? And so I sent that to Replit uh, with in about $15 worth of vibe coding. I was able to develop a full-fledged app that did everything that I have been trying literally for like a year to do in Wix, and it did it in like a matter of a few minutes. And I'm like, shit, man, this is this is so much better. And so I started to realize I think we need an app, but an app that just managed your membership records, your donations, and things, boring, right? I said, it really should be an app where you can watch. I mean, it really was, Jesse. I mean, it was. It was a pain in the ass. And and I thought, but that's no fun. And if it's not fun, nobody's gonna do it. Why would anybody do it? Like, it makes things easier on me, and makes things easier to abide by the bylaws of the Church of Korihor. Great. I mean, that's what I need it for. But what do the people who use it need it for? And I thought, boy, it would be great if it was a social media app, if it was a social network where you don't have to be a member of the Church of Korihor to get in here and have fun and have a good time and do all the things that we distract ourselves doing on TikTok, which I don't know if you guys have seen this. Ever since Oracle took over TikTok, it sucks. I mean, it really sucks. Um, until, while TikTok was mainly a way that people made money as independent people, just checking to make sure this isn't an emergency. I've been blown up on TikTok again, by the way, since we published the new hymns. This one that I showed you guys a little earlier, the From This Breath, really popular. I mean, people really like it on TikTok. Here on YouTube, it's hard to get attention on YouTube. You either have subscribers or you don't. And on TikTok, yesterday I put $50 of advertising that I probably shouldn't have into promoting Jezebel, which is our other new hymn. And within 2 hours, it had like 2,000 views, and it had dozens of likes, mostly from strangers and people clicking, leaving comments. You always get some gross person. You always get some gross guys. The toxic men are everywhere. Toxic people are everywhere, right? But every time I publish a song on TikTok meant to encourage women who are leaving faith behind, and leaving behind the patriarchal norms, and especially the sexualization of church, because church is a very sexualized thing in Christian society. I mean, I'm sure you guys are aware. I'm preaching to the choir quite literally, except for the robot still is singing at the Church of Korihor. So far, other than one event where Megan Connor sang for us, and it was gorgeous, and I'm sorry if you weren't there to see it. But the I distracted myself. But the I don't remember where I was going with that. But now I'm on to another thing. The other thing that I tried to do is that I vibe coded the meditation app. You guys know we have overview. I even made T-shirts that say "Do you overview?" and then it says korihor.org. And you go to korihor.org, and it really doesn't do anything yet. So I'm like, oh, see, now this, if we had an app, if we had a full social media app, you'd be able to go on there and do your daily meditations using audio recordings and all these cool, innovative ideas I came up with, they would load automatically on an app. And so I said, well, let's just, and so that again, it was just another reason why I looked at it and I said, everything that we do that I want to do with the Church of Korihor works better on an app. Thank you, Jesse. Anytime, and now I'm back on track. Anytime that I post a song meant to specifically to help women or AFAB persons who have been marginalized and sexualized in church to heal from sexual shame. Of course, the main one that everybody who's been with us for a while knows is we have this song called Lick My Cupcake. And which of course is based on that old visual aid, not just Mormons do it, but just about every Mormon woman, especially any Mormon AFAB person, has experienced this, where you are told to lick the frosting off of a cupcake and then offer it to the person next to you, and then you are told that it's an object lesson for losing your virginity, and that when your husband gets to your wedding bed and discovers that somebody has already licked your frosting, he's not going to want you. And you take that and flip it around from something shameful to something playful, snarky, and something that reclaims your power on that and says, I'm going to straight up mock this stupid idea. And when you do that, especially for women out there, I find, though a lot of men make comments about it too, acknowledging it for themselves, for ourselves, that we need it too. I've tried a half dozen times to come up with a hymn about the little factory talk. For ex-Mormon men, every ex-Mormon man from my generation at least knows this, the little factory talk, and how much that hurt our psyches. These churches are engaged in sexual abuse of us, of their own congregation. They are assaulting the actual integrity and the beauty and the innocence of human beings, and they're doing it to us from birth. The Catholic Church is not innocent in this. Hell, the Jewish practices are not innocent in this. The first thing they do to a Jewish boy in Orthodox Judaism is to cut part of his penis off. And it's just not acknowledged that this religion has this long enduring history of sexualizing its members and hurting them. And if there's anything that a godless church should be doing, it is engaging in helping to purify the congregation, purify the community, and being able to give space for snarkiness. Yes, though people see it who are still in the cults, see it as just another way in which we are assholes. Frankly, yes, maybe we are assholes, but we are assholes to an organization that sexualized us from the time we were born. Churches expose everything that is naturally Epstein Islandish about our society and about the patriarchy. And so when I post a video like Lick My Cupcake, a song like Lick My Cupcake, and I get one after another comment, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, wherever, comment after comment after comment, or more likely, I get messages in private directly to the Church of Korihor or directly to me that say, thank you so much for posting that. I don't know why this was so healing for me. This stupid song, this silly song effectively about getting nailed or or masturbating, and it's like, I don't know why this song was so healing for me, but it really was. And so as I started getting back into, in the last few weeks since Thrive St. George, when I saw Natasha Helfer, and she and I messaged back and forth, but she's busy, I'm busy. We're both trying to live our lives. And every time I see her, talk to her, we we really got to finish the documentary. Because a few years ago, I interviewed Natasha Helfer and Jennifer Finlayson Fife. If you don't know, they are Mormon sex and family therapists, about their work with helping, especially women who are healing from sexualization inside the Mormon Church and sexual shame. And it's such an important work to be doing. And I had collected a whole bunch of other testimonial or interviews with people who had been hurt by the church, by the Mormon Church. And so we were putting together this documentary, and I ran out of time. I ran out of money. I was paying for everything out of pocket. And I even traveled out to California and did a couple hours of interviews with Nicole Prouse. If you don't know, Nicole Prouse is the neuroscientist behind the work that disproved porn addiction and sex addiction. And sex addiction, the concept of sex addiction had been disproven. Now, of course, and I talked about this with her in the interview. I'm like, that's not to say that people don't have compulsive behavior around sex. And she's like, no, of course not. You can have compulsive behavior around anything. I said, so what difference does it really make? I had asked her in this interview, I'm like, what difference does it really make whether you call that addiction? And she's like, it makes a difference in that that the way you treat addiction is different. And the way that people tend to treat porn addiction or sex addiction is thoroughly unhealthy, and they know it to be unhealthy. And far and away, it's being run by Mormons. And I had asked her, I'm like, tell me about that. And she's like, oh, Mormons. She's like, let me tell you about some of the Mormon men who run these porn addiction recovery groups. And she's like, you've heard of gay conversion therapy. I'm like, sure, everybody's heard of gay conversion therapy, pray the gay away. And she's like, she told me in this interview, she's like, this is so much more harmful because so many more people are affected by it. And she said, and these men who hold like conferences where people pay thousands of dollars to hear these Mormon men, many of them can't even call themselves therapists anymore because they have been completely debunked, and it's been shown that the thing they're doing in addiction recovery is hurtful to people, and that people actually have to do more healing from the treatment than from any kind of problem they had with compulsory behavior around sex. And I'm like, so you're telling me that these Mormons, primarily Mormons, I said, but it's not just, I mean, there are Catholic groups that do it. There are Muslim groups that do this. She's like, sure. But the people holding conferences, they're all Mormons. And I was like, huh. And she's like, what do you mean, huh? And she had asked me, I'm remembering this like 10 years later. She's like, you don't believe me. I said, oh, I'm ex-Mormon. And she's like, you are? And I'm like, yeah, I just flew here to Los Angeles from Utah. And she's like, okay, I was wondering. And I was like, you were wondering if I was Mormon? And she's like, yeah, I thought maybe you were Mormon. And I'm like, no, I'm ex-Mormon. And I'm like, there's so much healing that needs to be done for men and women in the church, in Mormonism. And they don't even know. They don't even have any cognizance of how much sexual shame all these Mormons are doing. Yes, Jesse, exactly. Exactly. I won't bring that up because let's not drive any more energy to that. But yes, that's just one. There are tons of them. I contacted Fight the New Drug. Have you heard of Fight the New Drug? This organization is toxic AF. I know from people I have connections into Fight the New Drug. I don't think that anybody at Fight the New Drug knows about this. And one of them is a guy who knows the guys who started Fight the New Drug, who confided in me. They know that it's harmful, that it's hurtful. But there's so many people who are calling on them to do these things. And there's so much connection into the upper echelons of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They can't stop it. They can't do anything about it. That the people who run Fight the New Drug know it's harmful. They know it. And he said, and they regret that they started it, frankly, but there's so much money in it now, they can't do anything about it. And I'm like, so I contacted them, and I'm like, I'll be as generous as I can with you. I'm going to be upfront with you. I am an ex-Mormon. This is going to be very critical of you and your organization, but I'd rather you had an opportunity to speak for yourself. And they responded and said, "Thank you for your interest. We are not interested." And I said, "Okay, well, there you go." Well, and it was a bit more long exchange. What are you doing? What are you actually interviewing people about, et cetera? I can't say any names of people. I don't know for a fact that the specific members of the Mormon clergy or administration who are involved over there. Um, but I have my suspicions. Let's say that I have my suspicions based on comments that I've received and conversations I've had with people who know people. And as you know, the guys who started that organization, Fight the New Drug, they are part of the Tom Harrison Network. They spoke at the Eternal Core conference that Tim Ballard and Jody Hildebrand and Ruby Frankie. Yeah, I think Ruby Frankie spoke at it, right? Who else spoke at that? They had like 3 people from Operation Underground Railroad there. They're all Visions of Glory people. They're all from this Lori and Chad Daybell cult. Lori and Chad, I think, were there, but I don't remember if they were there. Anyways, but they were all in it. They're all in that group, these Mormons. So that gives you an idea of who I suspect is probably running it. So, in any event, I had put together all of these interviews, and I was working on editing it together when my main video production client fired me. And I was like, what the hell, man? And it was months before I was able to pick up a new client that could so that I could actually pay my bills. And I had to fall back on my parents. I had to, Molly had to go back to work. And it was right at the same time that I was excommunicated from the Mormon Church. Officially, I had been unofficially out of the faith for a while. I was excommunicated. You guys know that when I was excommunicated, I felt like it was a huge relief. I thought it was good and healthy for me. I still feel that way. But I'll be candid with you. When it actually happened, it was kind of like Wile E. Coyote running off the edge of the, following the Roadrunner off the edge of the cliff. And there's that moment where you feel like the ground has been pulled out from underneath you, and you're like, I know that if I look down, I will fall. I know that I will spiral. So I'm just not looking down. And it was like that after I was kicked out of the Mormon Church. It was like that for months. And it was while I was making Mormon Sex and making the documentary about Mormons and sex. And I had to contact all these people and say twice, because I started it up again. And again, I just ran out of steam. And I'm like, I'm doing like everything by myself here. And so I asked people to come in and help me out with it and stuff, or, to try and contribute to it financially and so forth. And it was like, I just can't make this thing go. I never should have started this project until I had money to start it with, and found somebody who had money to start it with. This time I'm like talking to Natasha Helfer, and she's like, I'm mostly interested in what I said about this 10 years ago. And I was like, yeah, me too. And I'm like, well, we should publish it. Maybe I'll just put the interviews up for people to watch. And she's like, or something. And I thought, we should just finish it. I mean, I'll just figure it out. I'll just do it. So this is attempt number 3 to actually finish my first feature-length documentary. And so I'm creating the assets for Mormon Sex. And one of them was that it needed a cool new theme song. And fortunately, we can do that now rather easily. So I am going to show you that new theme song. I'm super excited about it. We will have other music in there. I still have to secure the rights for and figure out how that all is going to look. But I definitely want to. I definitely want to finish this thing up. So I'm going to finish today by just showing you this new hymn. I'm really excited about it. I posted this last night, and it literally has thousands of views and people saying how much they love it. If you love it, I highly recommend that you go to korihor.org and click on hymns because it's up there. And so, as is the one we started out with today, which is From This Breath. I am super excited about it. In any event, I'm going to be looking for people who will become beta users, beta testers for the Korihor app. If you are interested in becoming one of those people, I would greatly appreciate your help. I am at this point, just because our official email still isn't working, Wix. I'm just giving people out my personal email address. Contact me. It's joerollins@gmail.com. I'll put it here in the comments. Be courteous. Don't give it to assholes. Contact me and let's get you going if you want to actually try being one of the beta testers. My goal at this point is the 8th of March. I want to launch a version of the app, a beta testable version of the app, so we can start kicking its tires on March 15th. And so by April, we can start expanding to dozens, maybe even a couple hundred users, and getting, advertising saying we want people who will come and help us to kick the tires and see if we can break this thing and see if we can make it work, and start working on this together. I'm super excited about it. We may crash and fail. This may be the biggest kerfuffle, the biggest catastrophe, the most ill-advised thing that I have done yet. But I tell you, I'd rather fail at this than succeed about just about anything else. It gives me a reason to get up every day and think, I might actually do something here that changes people's lives. I may lose my job in the process, but I was probably going to lose it anyways. I could definitely use more video clients, by the way, if you guys know people who need video production work. But right now I'm full on focused on this because I really do think if I'm going to live to do something, if I'm making my life worth living, it needs to be doing something that actually helps people and standing up and speaking truth to power. I did it once to the Mormon Church, and a great big long fuck you to the Mormon Church. I'd like to do it to the Trump administration. I'd like to do it to Twitter and to Elon Musk. I'd like to do it to Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg. I'd like to give a great big fuck you to the billionaires and the corporations and say, you know what, little tiny Church of Korihor that's way too small for you people to even notice can make a better social media app than any of you. Not because we have more resources, not even because we have the benefit of artificial intelligence, how to help maximize and leverage our capabilities, and not even because we have a lot of people. We can do better because we're actually an organization committed to making people's lives better, not towards just making money. And I may be wrong. It may not work. This may be the greatest folly of my life. But like I said, I'd rather fail at this than succeed at anything else. And that's kind of the fly by the seat of our pants kind of fly by night or, ship of fools we're running at the Church of Korihor over here. I got to be honest with you guys. I love it. I don't know. Once upon a time, let me finish with this. Once upon a time, Apple was led by a man who, it turns out, is a dickhole, named Steve Jobs, who used to say about Apple's brand, why would you join the Navy when you can be a pirate? And his whole thing about Apple was that it was supposed to be a way for people to stick it in the eye of Microsoft and Hewlett Packard and IBM, Big Blue, and stick it in their eye and say, I'm going to get a Mac and it's going to be better than anything you guys make. And just because it's not the big corporation. Isn't it ironic that in the greatest second act in business, as they called it, Walter Isaacson, I think, called it that, of Steve Jobs, was that he started to make better and better products. Apple started making better and better products, starting with the iPod. And then all of a sudden, to compete with all of this broad marketplace of innovations out there, they had to basically become Big Blue. They had to become evil. And we saw it again with Google. Google's slogan, their motto, when they started was "Don't be evil." And today they're one of the most evil organizations in the world. As long as an organization is built for the purpose only of making money and only of making profits, you can say whatever you want about its mission being pure and true and about making an organization, even nonprofit organizations, research organizations like OpenAI, or Anthropic, these organizations, their purpose at the end of the day is to make money. Churches are generally the same. Nonprofits, very largely, it's just another way to make money. And I look at this and I think, if I had $10,001 a month, I'd give $1 away. This is more than I need. I just look at it and I'm like, I really don't have any interest in being a billionaire. I need people who have no interest in being billionaires. I'd be perfectly happy to be able to just live my life, do my work, and wake up every day never having to wonder. I'm sure if Mark Zuckerberg, if he wasn't, drug-addled out of his brain, would probably think every day to himself, which is, do I do anything that actually benefits the world? Do I do anything that anybody actually needs somebody to do? And I would hate to think what it must feel like to be Elon Musk and have that thought go through your head. I would hate to think what it must be like to be Donald Trump and have that thought go through your head. Luckily for them, I doubt they're even capable of it anymore. They're so desensitized, and they're so used to desensitizing us. Once upon a time, I had a boss at Isogenics. His name was Rick Despain. And he pulled me aside and he told me this once. He's going to love being mentioned in this, by the way. He's still very Mormon. And he told me this story, when he was bringing me up out of operations and into marketing. This is when I was still in film school. And he wanted me to come work for him and do video for Isogenics, which I was very grateful for that opportunity. He really changed my life, this Mormon man. And he said, "Have you ever heard of 'Don't worry, be crappy'?" And I said, and I laughed, and I'm like, "Sounds like terrible business advice." He's like, "It's not, it's brilliant." And he said, back in the day, Hewlett Packard, HP was the company that made all of the electronics, all the computerized electronics that businesses used. And he's like, and everybody knew one thing about Hewlett Packard. They were the first to market. They brought the first printers to market. They brought the first scanners to market. They brought the first, mouse and generated interfaces. They brought all that to market first. And everybody else just kind of tagged along behind them. And he said, and so first of all, they were always the first one to market. Secondly, their products were garbage. They were not good. And he said, because of course they were category creators. Nobody had ever done it before. But nobody had ever done what they were doing. And I later brought this up, by the way, in a marketing class when I went back to college and tried to finish my degree for the second time, didn't do it. And they said, and the guy who was talking about it, he's like, "That's right. HP really defined what it meant to be first to market." He said, but Samsung taught us something even better. He said Samsung took that same idea and said, never be first to market. Samsung at the beginning, they didn't innovate anything. He's like, they just came in and said, why would we be the first ones bloodied through the wall? It's expensive and it's dangerous, and you risk running the reputation that you make crappy products and then cancel them, which is what Apple did all through the 90s with the Newton. You remember that? All these other things, He's like, why would we? He said, they looked at that and said, why would we be the first to market with anything? Let's be second to market. Let's take our manufacturing power and our logistics power and maximize it to say, let's make the same thing that Sony already innovated, that Panasonic innovated, that Apple innovated, that HP innovated. Take what they've innovated, let them be the ones bloodied first through the wall, and take everything they learned from it, apply it to our own standards, and sell a product almost identical to the one that they're making, and with modest improvements, and sell it at the same price, or sell it even better, slightly lower, and for a better discount, and leverage our manufacturing and logistics and business connections and political connections to be able to get into the same game and not have to pay any of the reputation cost or any of the financial costs or the legal cost, political costs of being the first to market. Let them be the first to market. We'll just come in here and make money. And he's like, and honestly, today they're teaching it in business schools, the second to market philosophy that was really pioneered by Samsung. I look at this and I say, I go back to what Rick taught me in Isogenics. He said, the guy who came up with that idea, he said, here's what he would do, what they would do, Hewlett Packard would do. They would release a product like a scanner, and it would be shit. He didn't say shit. I said that way. He said it would be really bad. It wouldn't work. And then you would get the sales reps out there pushing it to small businesses and enterprise level businesses. We get you a good deal on this, and sell it by commissions. Get the scanners out there, get people using them, and get them hating it. And then when they use it, and it's like, the stupid thing doesn't scan the whole thing, or it's too hard to switch modes, or it's too, whatever, all these problems. And then they start coming in with complaints saying, take this thing back and give us our money back. This thing doesn't even work. He said, that's when you get the salespeople to come back out there and say, we're really sorry. We're happy to give you your money back, and take the product back. But the company is aware of the problems. And wouldn't you rather that we sent an authorized repair person to come out and install this patch that makes the product work? And it's like, is that going to cost me more? Yes, but the thing will work. And he's like, and he said, and all of a sudden, the thing that they had turned Hewlett Packard into was, instead of just being the company that made products that nobody else had, they became an ecosystem for salespeople to make money, for repair people to make money, and authorized retailers and repair people. And they became an ecosystem to themselves. And suddenly, it wasn't just the company working to make Hewlett Packard successful. It was all these small dealers. It was a whole network of small dealers whose main objective was to keep Hewlett Packard in business, because that was how they stayed in business. And he said, and all of a sudden, it was a lot cheaper and a lot easier to come out with a product and take it first to market and become the category creators for your market, because there were so many people whose interests were aligned with Hewlett Packard's. And he said, and when corporations like Apple started to delete those relationships and saying, we don't need, they still have authorized Apple retailers out there, but mainly just in states where they made it next to impossible to open Apple stores. And but once upon a time, Apple authorized retailers, those were like, that's where you went to get a Mac. That's where you would have gone to get an iPod. It was when they started Apple stores and opening Apple stores that Apple started to terminate relationships, authorized retailer relationships, and they ruined tons of people's lives. And here, this company that makes great products, or they used to, anyways. I don't really care for most of their stuff now. I still prefer a Mac over a Windows machine like the one I'm using right now, but I haven't owned a Mac in years, frankly. I realized one day this organization is evil. I don't know if you get into it, but there's a new book out. I'm trying to remember what it's called, about what Apple did to Huawei. If you find out what happened with Apple and Huawei alone, let alone all the small people they screwed over, you get a different perspective about this company. I realize these people are terrified of competing. Billionaires and corporations are terrified of competition. And they'll preach up and down about capitalism. But capitalism, as it was defined by Adam Smith, was supposed to be about competition. It's supposed to be about, if competitors actually compete, the public benefits, because innovation rings to the top. Now, I'm not a big fan of capitalism these days, but I have to say Adam Smith, I think, got it right, because he said, Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nations said that when competitors, that's true, Kathy. Boy, that's true. I didn't believe it back in the day. I used to be an Apple head, but believing me, I've come around. The corporations, as long as they are in charge of it and interested in that profit motive, they're not going to care that they ruin our lives. They know that they're destroying our lives. They know that this AI innovation is, that right now, it is the fulfillment of everything Adam Smith prophesied that was the evil that capitalism could become. Because he didn't just promote capitalism, he warned about capitalism. Because he said, as soon as you have competitors who are in the same room, even just to have a good time, just to have fun, they never get together except that they conspire against the public. And boy, did that turn out to be true. It was prophetic, Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nations. And he said, and then also, as soon as they have the ability to influence governments, it will all go to pieces, which is exactly what happened with Apple. Apple basically got Huawei. Huawei came out with better phones than the iPhone and had the manufacturing prowess and logistical ability to distribute this phone all over the world. It was called the iPhone killer. And Apple basically got the U.S. government, basically paid to have the U.S. government label this device as a national security risk so that it couldn't be sold in the United States, just to kill it. I mean, just buy it. They just bought the influence. It's just like, we'll just pay for it. And all of a sudden, this device, which was better than the iPhone, was a national security risk. And they got all the media companies fell in line with it. CNN, all these media companies just bought it hook, line, and sinker. Oh my gosh, China's coming out with a phone that will spy on us for the Chinese, for the People's Republic of China, and it's like, it was all bullshit. It wasn't even true. And I was just like, my God, but this company really did become everything that they claimed otherwise to be. And you're right, Steve Jobs. If you really look into the history of Steve Jobs, he was a dick. He really was. I can't believe I ever worshiped this man like I did when I was a capitalist. But anyway, I just look around and I think, is that we are a ship of fools, is that we actually are pirates, in a sense, in the innocent of senses, that people hear about us, and they think it's a joke. And as I said from the beginning, I love it. I love that people think that we're a joke. Yeah, that's true, Kathy. Just what happened with Lisa, if you know the story of Lisa. Do you know that Steve Jobs, and now I'm having this conversation too, do you know Steve Jobs once found his father? Steve Jobs was adopted. His mother didn't want anything to do with his father, his biological father, who was a man, I want to say Lebanese or Syrian, is a man from the Middle East anyway, who was working in California at the time, and he got somebody to come with him. I don't remember who it was, Steve Wozniak or somebody, I'm sure. And went to his father's restaurant and went to like spy on him, and he wouldn't even talk to him. And they're like, call him over, tell him I'm Steve Jobs and I'm your son. He wouldn't even talk to him. He's like, no. That's like, what an asshole. It's like remarkable to me. Anyways, so it was like I was blown away to see how evil TikTok became when the Mormons over at Oracle, and yes, there are people, I guess, who work at Oracle and are not Mormons, though. I don't know who. When the Mormons took over TikTok, I'm just going to say it that way from now on. When the Mormons took over TikTok, it started to really suck. It had huge problems, and it became depressing. I don't know if that's just from my perspective, but it doesn't seem to be. I hear a lot of people making these comments about all the things that don't work anymore. And this organization that should have been continued to be the one organization, the one company that makes a social media app where people have joy in their lives because they're helping small creators to make a side hustle or to replace their current hustle and make their lives better, was completely destroyed by corporate interests. And it wasn't until they opened the TikTok shop, which made it possible for people to become small-time creators without having to actually make anything, which is both good and bad, and just market products like so many retailers already do, products mainly made in other countries, and just streamline the process. It became like Alibaba. It became like AliExpress, if you know about them. It was when that happened that all of a sudden they were a national security risk because ByteDance is spying on us. They work for the Chinese government. They work for the Communist Party, and they're trying to blow. And all. Look, maybe it's even true, but I'm telling you, I don't buy it. You saw what happened with Huawei. You know that as soon as Zuckerberg and fucking Elon Musk, forgive my language, please, when these billionaires saw that TikTok was going to become the best social media app in the world, that it could beat Instagram, that it was like everything people loved about Instagram, but better because it was more focused on small-time creators, but it was also bringing in corporate money and infringing on their game. All of a sudden, they had to get somebody into power to force the sale of TikTok from a Chinese-owned company to an American-owned company. Just happened to be an American-owned company based in Utah. You think money didn't exchange hands to make that happen? You think somebody's political campaign wasn't guaranteed, paid for, so that could happen? I mean, let's just say it started under a Trump administration, continued through an entire Biden administration, and finally took effect again in a Trump administration. And you can't blame it on a party. You can't blame it on a president. They probably had almost nothing to do with it. This machine is so streamlined. You don't need any one political actor to make it work. All that happens is money goes from this account to that account, and next thing you know, they get whatever they want. And so is it any wonder then, with nobody needing to consciously make these decisions, it just happens that these apps started to ruin our lives. And people suddenly, when I was a kid, they used to say, you're not depressed, you just need to turn off the news. In other words, they would try to encourage people to stop being so connected to everybody all the time. Because if you're connected to other people all the time, it overwhelms your consciousness. And when you're constantly conscious of how much war and how much famine, how much disease exists in the world, it's hard to be happy. And social media made us so connected that it was hard to be happy, not just in the broader world, but even in our small networks. So many people were so stressed all the time. That's why, people like, I'm trying to remember his name now, John Krasinski. Remember John Krasinski launched a YouTube channel just about having good news back during the pandemic. You remember this? And it was just, let's go live, or let's publish every day good news. Something, because otherwise our entire lives are filled with everything that's going wrong, and our consciousness becomes overwhelmed. But when our consciousness becomes overwhelmed, what do? We eat more. When our consciousness is overwhelmed, we use drugs more, not just recreational drugs. We use prescription drugs more. We go to therapy. And of course, none of these things are bad. It's not bad to eat food. It's not bad to medicate. It's not bad to do any of these things. But what happens is they start up BetterHelp. They start up Trump RX. They start up these corporations to allow billionaires and shareholders to profit from what should be the relationship between you and the guy who lives down the street, the guy you see at the store, the woman that who you and your kids go to school together. You see each other at church. That whole community got corporatized, and now it's just another way to make money. And then we sit around going, why are our people so depressed? Why are our young people not dating anymore? Why are the 20-somethings, 30-somethings not having sex anymore? Why don't people enjoy community? How have we become so disconnected? I fucking wonder, because we got corporations who, if we are happy and helping each other and taking care of each other, if we develop a community, it's true. It needs to be said over and over again that community is resistance. Because if I can post something somewhere that says, guys, I'm having a hard time this month, I really could use another client, or if you guys could help out my ex-wife, she's going through a hard time, which, as it turns out, with mine is actually true, or help out my kid, if I can post that somewhere and it actually works and people take care of each other. Out here in the South, people know this. People tell you about this all the time, that if you can go to your neighbor and say, gosh, my car's stuck up on the mountain, up in the mud, and I don't have any money, I don't have anything. People out here in the South, people say, come on, let's go get in the truck, and they'll just help you out. It's a community. Community really is resistance. That community is a way to capture back what was lost in our society when we just suddenly started to take everything that was our free time, our communication, our consciousness. Interesting. I'll have to look at that. Yeah, that's a good point. When we started corporatizing our consciousness and selling it to corporations so that they can sell us more advertising. And I don't know if you guys see this in your algorithm, but I see it all the time. It's increasingly, it's porn. It's AI generated porn. It's chat bots that will be your girlfriend. I can't get on Facebook anymore without getting, because of my age, because of I don't know what, right? Because I use AI apps, maybe. Getting bombarded with images that are basically porn. Where the women are the AI generated girls are wearing clothes, but but it's clearly meant to sexualize them. And then it's like, hey, this could be your girlfriend now. This is the level of evil that we're living in. They're actually trying to sell us computers that will be your girlfriend because they are aware that they have corporatized dating and family and love and sex has been corporatized out of our conscious experience until we are complete automatons who don't even know and are raising a whole generation that doesn't know how to ask someone on a date or how to act on a date or how to um, or how to get together and have a good time without having to feel pressured to have sex. So much to the point now where they have a whole generation of people. We're raising a whole generation of people don't even want to have sex. And it's like, this isn't normal. This has been completely destroyed. This has completely destroyed our sense of community. And if we could just figure out a way to say, we're going to get out there and just put one app into the marketplace that says, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And we are never going to show you an ad for Geico. We are never, ever, 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 ever going to show you an ad for ICE and joining fucking ICE or joining the Air Force. We are never, ever, 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 ever going to try and get you to place an order at Walmart or to place an order through DoorDash or Uber Eats. You already know how to do those things. If you wanted it, you could go get it. But right now, the ads you need to see are, if you gave $5 to help this person get out of a toxic relationship, that person would be grateful to you for $5. This person who makes stickers or posters or paintings, you could buy this artist's painting for $100 that you otherwise were going to just blow on more freaking sex toys from Amazon or what have you. You guys ever see that? Remember back in the day when Amazon was making all of these people work through the pandemic? And the guy gets up. Remember the guy who got up in front of the news? They were trying to organize and unionize. And he got up there and said, do you know what Amazon is? It's dildos. That's what, I mean, he just came out and said, like, this whole warehouse you see behind me, it's dildos from wall to wall. And I get that everybody needs to be able to get their dildos, but we could get Corona working here. You don't need it that badly. You know, you can wait a month. You can wait a little bit. You know, you don't have to have everything that comes to your brain to buy right now. Now, there are things that people order through Amazon that they need. There are things people order through Spark that they need. Okay, that makes sense. But the issue is that our whole society has become, so give me, need right now, because our corporations make more money by simply making it easier for you to buy and then assaulting your senses with reasons you should feel like shit. Here, look at this person who's got 2% body fat and looks amazing in every bikini that they've ever even thought about. And here they are on vacation in Ibiza living the high life. Who wouldn't want to look at that? Somebody who doesn't want to be reminded that they're living, in a shanty out in Wyoming with nobody around for miles. And now they're looking at like, oh, I guess I have to have FOMO because I guess that's what life is supposed to be. Why wouldn't they moderate that? If it makes people feel depressed, why wouldn't they show them something more that makes them feel more purposeful? Why would the algorithm be pushing this to you? Because the more depressed you feel, the more they can sell you shit. And it's just, I think that we can do what Hewlett Packard did. And this is how I came finally back around at 2 hours. Always 2 hours. What's with me? Anyways, I have an internal clock, I guess. Rick told me this guy Rick Despain. His son, by the way, you guys have heard me talk about. I have a friend David. It's his son. We met at Isogenics, and he told me, he said, this guy who started this at Hewlett Packard, the CEO, and I don't remember the guy's name now, years later, his philosophy was, don't worry, be crappy. And he said, and that's what we do here at Isogenics. And boy, at that time, boy, did we fucking ever. I'm grateful for the experiences I had at Isogenics. I don't really care for MLMs these days, and I haven't worked for an MLM in years. I'm going to reveal a little bit here. When Isogenics was new, the founder of the company, John Anderson, had a contract with the company. Originally, it was called a company called Healthy Outlook. And Healthy Outlook, it was a big joke. At Isogenics, when you joined, you would get a HO number. It's a funny story. I started working there in the customer service department when I was in film school. I would do like wedding videos on the weekends. And then I would do bilingual customer service for Isogenics. And every person called in, we would ask them, what's your HO number? And it was a big joke because all the ID numbers started out HO for Healthy Outlook. And John Anderson hadn't thought of that. that means hoe. So everybody at Isogenics became known as hoes. And it was everybody would come in and be like, what's your hoe number? What's your hoe number? I worked there for like 6 years before they finally took the HOs off everybody's number. And then people would call and say, my hoe number is this or that. And customer service would be like, what are you talking about, hoe number? Forget it. In the early days of Healthy Outlook, it started to take off a little bit as a diet company making diet products. And they made decent tasting shakes, horrible tasting cleanse teas. And it was disgusting. But then they had this other product called Want More Energy that they had to cancel when it was made illegal. And it was ephedra. It was Mormon tea. It was just ephedra. It's a weed that has like stimulants in it. And it originally started out as capsules that you would take. And you would take these capsules, and within like 15 to 30 minutes, I know because when they canceled it, back at the time, the other company that was making it was another MLM company. Somebody out there will throw it out in the comments before I can think of it, remember it. They were like the biggest company. They were like the biggest MLM in the world at the time. They might still be. I forget. Anyways, they made the California-based MLM. What was their name? I'm so glad. I don't want to remember. Anyways, these ephedra capsules, the government, the FDA made them illegal because somebody like died. They gave somebody a heart attack, and so they made it illegal. They took it off the generally recognized as safe list, and they made it illegal to distribute for a while. And so the company, now it wasn't Beachbody, but they are another one. Natural something. What's it called? Forget it. And but they took it off the marketplace. And a buddy of mine who worked at the company before I did went into the warehouse and picked up a big box full of it and took it into the call center. And that call center ran on these Want More Energy tablets. I mean, like, we were working long, hard hours back in time when Isogenics was making like $1 million, $2 million a month. And as it grew to like 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, 20, 25 million, 30 million, 40, $45 million a month in revenue that was coming in through Isogenics, we were worked to death. I mean, this company that was like a decent job with a small enterprise level company blew up into this major corporation overnight while I was working there. And I made the transition at that time from operations, because I became their customer service trainer for a while. And then on the side, I would work making videos for the company. And then I got moved into the marketing company about the time when I decided can't keep going to film school. And I dropped out of film school. And while I was working there, I was working under Rick. And Rick would say, Joe, tell me all the time, said, Joe, you got to remember, we got to don't worry, be crappy. And for as much as I didn't learn from Rick, I did learn about this. He was right. At that time, I'm just going to say this just real quickly before we wrap up. John Anderson owned two companies. The guy who founded it, the Isogenics. He owned Isogenics, and he owned this company that became Isogenics Manufacturing. And this company made products for other companies, the company that manufactured our products. And one day, they nearly failed a health inspection. Turns out they were making products with inconsistent standards, and there was foul crap found inside the equipment. They weren't exercising good safety standards, and they would test our food products. I won't tell you what they found, but when we found out, it was like, oh, what? We've been selling that, and people have been losing weight, and people loved it. They were tasty products. And at some point, they started putting like more sugar in the shakes or something, and the shakes were a lot more tasty, and people were still losing weight. And it was like, and the company was like phenomenally successful. Turns out it wasn't that complicated. And at that time, I remember I would tell Rick all the time, and I would say, if people found out how fly by night this organization is behind closed doors, we would be out of business tomorrow. And he said, and I remember him looking and saying, I bet they know, actually. I'm like, what? No, everybody thinks that Isogenics is this complex and fancy organization. We have these like high powered, executives and stuff, and we're like the most successful MLM company coming up in the business right now. And he's like, and that's not untrue. He's like, yeah, but it is a little bit fly by night. And he's like, but that's the way it is. He's like, you are poised to witness something that most people never see in their lifetime. And that's the making of $1 billion corporation. And it will work you to death if you let it. And he said, I've been privileged in the course of my life to see this maybe 4 times, to have worked at different companies. He worked at a company called USANA when it was coming up. He had worked at a company called Unicity when it was coming up. He'd only worked for MLMs, really. Herbalife. That's the one, Jesse. Good job. Herbalife is the other company that made ephedra. And let me tell you, that shit's fantastic. It's like natural Adderall. It really is. Anyways, like I would take some, like we would take that stuff. Like you would feel your heart, like you would feel warmth in your chest, and suddenly your brain was snapping clear, and everything you were doing, it was like natural Adderall. Anyway, it's good shit. That was keeping Healthy Outlook afloat when Herbalife's competing product was made illegal, and so they had to take it off the shelves, and Healthy Outlook almost crashed and burned. That's when they started making weight loss products that could compete with USANA's. And when they did that, at the same time, there was another weight loss company that crashed. It was called Cambridge Diet. And the president of Cambridge, the COO of Cambridge Diet was a man named Jim Coover. One of the nicest people I've ever worked for. I do a lot of bitching about rich people. Jim Coover's one of the better ones I actually ever worked for. John Anderson was kind of an asshole. I didn't know him very well, but every time I interacted with him, he was a real dick. But Jim Coover actually is one of the nicer men I ever actually worked for. But Jim Coover, but they were Cambridge Diet. They just made the cleansing tea, like a tea. And there was a news report that came out, I think in Idaho or Utah, of a person who had died of malnutrition, and they went through that person's cupboards, and released to the news that, well, when we went through this person's cupboards looking at what they had, what they had to eat, um, one of the products in their cupboard was this Cambridge diet stuff that supposedly is supposed to make it so you don't get hungry and so you can cleanse. And apparently, this person, starved themselves. And whether or not that was actually true, that had anything to do with Cambridge Diet's products, just the news story getting out about it destroyed the company. It was a successful company that just crashed because of one news story, basically. And Jim Coover worked for that company. And John Anderson told him, "Why don't you come over here to Isogenic? We're going to revamp Healthy Outlook as this new company, and we're going to call it Isogenics." And he came out there, brought his wife, lovely person, Kathy, and they started working together. And this was the biggest ship of fools you ever saw, man. It was a fly-by-night organization that just had one major thing. They could make products, the same products that USANA made, but make them with a little less sugar, make them faster, because the guy who owned the company that made the products was also the guy who owned the company that was selling the products, and was making money on both ends. And that's basically how we muscled USANA out. And this company blew up overnight. And as I would bitch and moan to Rick over and over, I'm like, this video sucks. It's not ready. I'm trying to get this done. You're not giving me enough budget. I don't have enough equipment. I don't have enough of this. I don't have enough of that. I'm trying to help you, man. But this is a multi-million-dollar corporation, and it's growing every day, and you're not giving me the support that I need. Rick would look at me and he's like, "Do you think I wouldn't get you more money if I could?" He's like, "You can't convince these people. You can't convince anybody right now that our videos and our marketing has anything to do with our success." And I'm like, "That's stupid. It's stupid, Rick." And he's like, "I know." He's like, "But look, we're still making money." And he's like, "Trust me on this, Joe. If you can make it on a shoestring budget, we will have a whole video department next thing you know." And he's like, "And remember, don't worry, be crappy." I'm like, "You're asking me to make shitty videos?" And he's like, "Yes, I am. I'm asking you to do the best you can with what you got and crank it out there. And if they see that it works, we'll get the budget." And he was right. And that's exactly what ended up happening. And I looked at this. This is what I look at what we're doing right now with Korihor. This is the biggest, which is the tiniest and the coolest ship of fools I ever heard of. We can do something where we just roll something out there, fully intending for it to be crappy at the start, and create something that has the potential to change the world. And if people see a small glimpse and say, "Wait a minute, this little tiny organization based out of Utah, a church for godless people, is creating an app that breaks down half the time. It doesn't do half the things that it claims it does. But every once in a while, somebody gets promoted on this app who couldn't get a job in the current AI-dominated marketplace, and just said, I'd rather start selling things I make, crochet animals I make." You guys seen these little tapers that a bunch of us got from a friend of ours at St. Joe's, Thrive St. George? I have one. It's not here with me. It's back in St. George. And there's the most adorable little tapers. If you know, it's an ex-Mormon thing. And I'm like, this is the kind of stuff that people would be able to sell on the Korihor app. I told that to Nikki, my sister, my flesh and blood and chosen family sister. I'm like, this is the kind of thing that people would be able to sell on the Korihor app, and we would just send them over to do that, to send them over to their Etsy shop or something. And instead of advertisers that are corporations and billionaires and making billionaires and shareholders richer, we're going to focus on creating an app that all it does is make people whose lives in corporate America are not sustainable make their career and their future bright and hopeful. And all we got to do is find one person who will be able to come out and say, this janky, crappy little social media app that I learned about in a live this guy did out of some broken down mobile home that doesn't have Wi-Fi and doesn't have the lights don't even work in it right now. I'm lucky I'm getting as good a light as I am through the skylight right now. This little app changed my life. Last 2 weeks ago, I posted on TikTok. I reposted a tweet, a post, a video from a woman in Salt Lake City whose husband was in detention with ICE in Las Vegas. And she needed $16,000 to spring him out so that he could make it to his visa application interview. And I've been watching lately. It's still up in the air. They finally got him out. But it's still up in the air whether or not he passes his visa interview. Because he was not an undocumented immigrant, because he was documented, the detention center that didn't want to admit that they detained a legal U.S. person wouldn't do anything to help him get released. And she's like, and it's cost her $16,000 to get her husband. This is a woman who's like 21 years old or something. She's like young, and they have a young child together, a born American citizen. And it cost her $16,000 to get him out of jail. Now, I was just one of many people. I only have just under 6,000 followers on TikTok who retweeted or reposted her video. And I said, guys, if there was ever a time for Korihors, for godless people to get together and help somebody, this woman has raised $10,000. She needs $6,000 more so she can get her husband, her son's father, out of detention so that he doesn't end up becoming undocumented. This is one moment where we can actually change something. And I got flooded with messages from people saying, thank you for posting this. I gave what I could. And that girl within 2 days had almost $20,000. We were only part of that. It's pretty hard to feel shitty about yourself when you saved a family. I'm sure being rich is great. I've never seen it. My partners love to tell me I grew up bougie because I grew up with a swimming pool in Arizona. Everybody had a swimming pool in Arizona, I thought. I've never been a millionaire, and I never will be. And I am so okay with that. I will never have billions of dollars. I will never go on vacation in Ibiza. I will never be accused of being on Epstein's Island or whatever the new version of Epstein's Island is. And I'm ecstatic about it. If I have 1 day left of breath, or 1 year, or 1 decade, or 100 years ahead of me, and even 1 day out of that is a day where I saved a family from ruin, I'd count myself a pretty rich man. We can do something. We have to try. Because if we don't, I don't know what any of this is for. I'll say it before, I'm perfectly content to say again and again, whatever we're doing here, don't worry, be crappy. I started the Church of Korihor on a philosophy. Every person who asked me about it, I said, they said, what is this? What are you actually doing here? I said, we're not worrying about it. We'll figure it out. And we will fail along the way, and we will fail and fail and then we'll do some things better. And then we actually did that. And you know what? We started changing people's lives. We did it with a blanket at a time. Then it was a donation at a time. Then it started out that we could create videos and with songs in them created by me and Suno that generated so far hundreds of responses from people and even thousands of views for which who knows what their feedback is, from people saying this song helped me heal through sexual repression from my years as a Mormon or my years as a Jehovah's Witness or my years as a Catholic, and supporting strangers, not just people in our congregation, but random people from around the world. We started changing people's lives. And then we had an event. It was expensive and difficult to put together in St. George, but it worked. We did it. And we had an auction. Kathy was there and was very generous. Thank you, Kathy, for letting me know. I don't know if you're still here, about the fact that she bought Crow. You guys remember my painting, my first painting, Crow. And the money she donated, the money she paid, we have already given over to Cherish Families, an organization that supports former polygamist moms and kids and families who have been abandoned by the men of the FLDS church since their leader, their prophet, went to prison, where hopefully he will languish in hell and die, eventually die of natural causes. And I wish no harm or death on anybody, but I hope that man never breathes free air one day of his life. Warren Jeffs to freaking hell with him. That wretched, awful Mormon man. We're this little godless church, Cherish Families, was happy to take our help. And I said, look, we're a church for atheists. That probably doesn't sit well with some people in your community who I'm sure are not atheists, or still believe in God. Probably many of them still consider themselves Mormons. They said, if you will help us with some blankets and some hygiene kits and maybe a little bit of cash, believe you me, we're happy to send somebody. And they sent a representative to our meeting at St. George just a couple of weeks ago, who spoke, and she stood up and gave us her name is Jude. And not only did we manage to raise a few $100s for Cherish Families, but now Jude has gotten booked on some Exmo podcasts so that she can help them raise more money for these women and children who have been abandoned by the FLDS. Just last week, I was on Latter Daily Digest, and you guys know Momo Nomo, Randy, on there. He said, I thought that Church of Korihor was just like a handle, like it was just a thing you called yourself. He said, it wasn't until this event that you guys held that I found out that you're a real organization that's actually changing people's lives. You're actually doing it, not just saying it, but you're doing it in a way that the Mormon church is not. That's right. People think it's a joke. I don't correct them. I laugh. People say, the Church of Korihor, what a joke. I laugh. Right? Fuck them. Fuck them. They don't need to know. They're not ready to know. And it's not that they're bad people. It sounds like a joke. Our little joke, the Church of Korihor, it's the best thing I've done in my life. And amen to that. You guys want to hear a cool new song? It's called Jezebel. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
You called me Lilith, the eve, blamed with Delilah, Christian the child I grieve. If you finally call me, I won't carry your shame. Sin next to murder, from which you were saved. Gave me a new name, you shielded my